Welcome to You Were Born for This, an 8-part series that I hope will turn so many lights on that you'll never again walk in darkness. Well, after that event at the church in Los Angeles with Bishop Blake, that second service went on. And I then came back after the lady went over and was back in the back with all of the money, and her heart was so stirred. I came back to the people, and I said to them, how can you ever again forget what a mission from God actually looks like? A mission of God means you don't know when it starts, you don't know where it happens, you don't know what the person's problem is, you don't know how the person's need will be met, because none of those things with the lady in the choir we knew. And God made a very dramatic, right in front of everybody. The speaker can't talk. And then he has to agree. Okay, I won't speak on this. I'll follow your lead wherever that goes, and we'll see what begins to happen. After the service was over, they'd asked me to bring some books and to sign them in the back. And they have this big lobby made of marble. It's beautiful, and it's real wide because of the church. And I was on the table, and I was signing book after book after book after book. I was there for 2 hours signing books. And eventually, a man came across here, and he leaned over on the table like this so nobody else could hear it. And he said to me, I don't want one of your books. I said, that's fine. He said, no, I already have that book. It was called You Were Born for This. It's where this course came from, although we're going way beyond the book. He said, that was a miracle today. Yes, it was. No, it was a miracle for me. It was a miracle for you. Yes. Can I tell you what happens? I said, yeah, what happened? He says, well, this morning before I got out of bed, I did what you said in the book in the Master Key chapter. The Master Key is this session we're talking about here. You can volunteer to be sent on a mission. And he said, I did the steps you taught me to do in the book. I laid in bed and I went right through the steps, and I officially asked God to send me on a mission today. He said, well, what happened? He said, well, I was driving to my church and God spoke right to me. He said, it was the first time in my entire life God ever said a word to me. He said, isn't that terrific? What did he say? He said, I was driving down the road and God said, go to this church. He said, I knew that was an African-American church. I'd never been to that church, but I heard it. So he said, I came and I sat in here. And he said, when I saw the lady up there start crying when you gave her the money, do you know what happened? No, I don't. God spoke again to me. He did. What did he say? He said, it's your turn. That's why he said, I got up and I asked no one permission, because when God tells you to do it, you don't need permission. And I took all the money I had, and it was a lot, and I gave it to the woman and went back and sat down. And he said, the big miracle of the day wasn't the lady. It was what happened to me. God spoke to me twice, and he sent me on a mission. Oh, man. If you think that would have happened without his request, no lights have turned on in your life. That happened because a man came all the way to the throne room of God and asked God himself to send him on a mission. Wow. So let's take a look at this. What we're trying to do is to show you something. When you actually can see, like Elijah prayed and asked God to open the eyes of his servant, and he saw the chariots of fire. When King Ahab and King Jehoshaphat were together, and God's prophet Micaiah come and says, I saw the Lord sitting on the throne, and all the hosts of heaven were gathered before him. And God said, so whom can I send? Wow. What would happen to a person that actually got to see in the other dimension? That instead of us verbalizing it, what would happen if the Almighty said, hey, I want to open the veil up and let you see right in there? Where is the throne of God? The throne of God is in heaven. The throne of God is not on earth. It will be moved to earth when there's a new heaven and new earth, but that hasn't happened yet. And this happened to a very famous man in a very famous passage. It's in the book of Isaiah, Isaiah chapter 6. But where do you see this? This sounds very familiar, doesn't it? I saw the Lord sitting on a throne. Where is that? It's in heaven, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above it, above the throne, stood. Above it? Stood? Seraphim. Each one had 6 wings. 2 covered his face, 2 covered his feet, 2 he flew. And he cried one to another, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. Also, he saw it and he heard. What happened when he heard changed his life. Also, I heard the voice of the Lord. Where is Isaiah at this point? Where is he? He's on earth. So think about this for a minute. He's on earth. He's not brought to heaven. He's on earth. And where, I don't know where God showed him the vision. It could have been right here. It wasn't really a vision. It was an opening of the dimension so a human could see into the other dimension where God was on his throne. Whether or not the people, the angelic host, could see Isaiah this way, we don't know. But Isaiah saw into that dimension. And he sees and he hears. And he hears the voice saying something which shocked Isaiah. Whom shall I send? You mean God's busy sending? Yes! And what's God busy doing? Looking for a volunteer. Whom can I send? And the second part of this is even more surprising. And who will go for us? Because you can be sent and not go. You can be sent and not go. And then I said, when I hear, whom shall I send and who will go for us? I said, here am I, send me. Now, I don't know what Isaiah did, but this phrase here, this sentence, send me, is in the imperative in the Hebrew. It's a command. It doesn't mean that Isaiah is commanding God, but he is speaking so intensely, it goes into the imperative. And I think, I don't know what happened, okay? I'm imagining this. I think when Isaiah looked at God, I don't think God was talking to Isaiah. Because he'd have said, and I heard the voice saying, looking at me and saying, can I send you, Isaiah? He doesn't. So I don't know, but I think God in heaven was here on a throne. Perhaps he was looking this way with the angelic hosts. And over here on the earth is this guy Isaiah who's seeing into this. And I think God's looking this way. I don't know. And I think when he heard this and saw this, he didn't want one of the angels to volunteer. Because that's typically what happens in heaven. The angels volunteer. So I think he yelled. I think he yelled. That's why it's in the imperative. I think he yelled into heaven. Whoa, I'm here. Hey, here am I. And I think the whole angelic host went, who's that? And here's this little guy. Please send me. Don't pick them. What's the premise? God is hunting for volunteers. If he wasn't, then why is he asking? Why isn't he coming saying, I have too many volunteers? Both times we get this story, both times he's asking for a volunteer. So let's get some points down here. Number one, Isaiah was supernaturally enlightened to see God's heavenly throne. Number 2, Isaiah unexpectedly heard God ask for someone to volunteer. To volunteer. Now, beneath that, I have 2 points. Number 1, 2.1, God sought for a volunteer to send. Do you understand that God is the one who sends and we are the one who choose to go or not? So you can have God sending and nobody going. Number 2.2, God sought for a volunteer who would go. Number 3, star number 3, Isaiah's vision enlightened him of God's desire for a mission partner. A mission partner. Notice what the text says. It says, whom shall I send? Who will go for us? You're going on behalf of God. There's a partnership here. Number 4, Isaiah so desired to be sent on a mission for God that he responded, "Send me!" Explanation point. And then if you wouldn't mind, would you underline all of number 5? This is what stops us from going. Isaiah had no idea of what, where, why, when, who, or how the mission would occur. It wasn't one of these. Lord, when you tell me what you have in mind and what it's going to cost and how long it's going to be and how many nights outside of my house will I have to be gone and who is it going to really be about? None of it. He heard the Almighty asking for a volunteer. He reacts. If you have a condition, how long will this be? Where is it going to be? Because I don't want you to send me to. You'll not get any missions. Do you know how God feels when a human being starts talking down to God by way of authority? It may not be in your tone of voice, but when God says, "Who can I send and who will go?" if he wanted us to know what about the mission, he would say, "Who will go to this place to talk to this person, to go deliver this issue?" But he doesn't. And when a king says, "Who will go for me on a mission? Can you tell me more about it?" So that's why true missionaries live with no conditions. None. No ifs, no ands, no buts, no whens, not but only. You're never going to volunteer if you have conditions in your life. What are the potential responses that you can see in the Bible when God asks you to go? I did a lot of thinking about this. Number 1, response 1, you reject the mission. You just reject it outright. And you run from the Lord and his will for you. Jonah 1's a classic illustration. Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, saying, "Arise and go to Nineveh." That's a pretty clear mission. That great city, what do you want me to do there? "And cry out against it, for their wickedness has come up before me." Is that a clear delegation of a mission? But Jonah arose to flee from Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. Can human beings reject the mission? God says, "Go this way." No, I'm going this way. Yes. How many of you have ever done that? The rest of you are lying. That's a pretty interesting observation for all of us. There's not one of us that haven't rejected a mission. Maybe the real issue isn't if we have, but maybe the real point is, will it be less and less frequently that you say no? And will you ever get to the point in which, regardless of what it is, your answer is, "Let me process this," but the answer is going to be yes. Number 2. Response 2, you accept the mission and you complete it successfully. Successfully. Paul had one of the hardest missions of anybody in history. I don't know of anybody that suffered as much as he did except for Christ in his death But when you look at everything that happened to him in Corinthians and how many times it happened and how many, I don't know of anybody. There may have been greater severity of a crisis, but I don't know of anybody that suffered as many times as he did. But none of these things, said Paul, move me, nor do I count my life dear to myself. Why not? If I count my life dear to me, I want to protect it, then I really won't say yes. I have to give away my life so that I may finish my race with joy and the ministry which I received from the Lord Jesus to testify to the gospel of the grace of God. At the end of his life, he said this, I have, past tense, fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. There was a man who finished the whole thing. I could be wrong, but I don't think that I am. I don't think there are very many people who finish the good works God prepared for them to do. Paul said, I am afraid of being disqualified by not finishing my race. Here's a man who had been to the third heaven and saw what it's all about. And he realized, man, I have been sent here to do these things, and there's a lot of them, and I got to strive and work hard. You aren't asked to walk your race. You've been asked to run your race. And it's my conviction, very few believers finish their race. It's not easy to do. May you be one of them that does finish your race. And may you be a person that time after time volunteers. And the adventure of it all. Oh my goodness. Number 3. This is a good one. You evaluate the mission. Request further information. And then act. You evaluate the mission, request further information, and then act. I want to balance this. If you have humility in your conversation with God, and if you, now listen to these words carefully, if you have pre-committed that if this is clear, I will do this. You can request further information without irritating God. I've done this a few times in my life where I've said to God, I'm a little bit unsure about this. Can you give me some time? Every time I've asked, I've gotten an okay with that. In other words, I've had peace about in asking that. I haven't had a check in my heart like, So sometimes you have to process through what it is to deal with it. It's better to do that than to reject the mission and run away. So take a look at how this worked with one man. So the Lord said to Ananias, arise and go to the street called Straight and inquire at the house of Judas for one called Saul of Tarsus, for behold, he's praying. And then Ananias answered, Lord, can we reevaluate this? That's what he's doing. Why? Lord, I have heard from many, not just a couple people, but a lot of people told me about this, Lord, about this man. I've heard about this man, and I don't know if you know all the details. I don't know if you know how much harm he has done to your saints, Lord. They are yours. I don't know if you know about how many people have died because of this man in Jerusalem. And here he has the authority from the chief priest to bind all who call on your name. So not only has he hurt a lot of people, where I'm living right now, the holy priest has given him all of the political authority to do it right here. And you're asking me to go to him? God, you sure you want to do this? That's what's going on. Now, it's very instructive, I think, how God reacted to him. You know, he didn't strike him dead. But the Lord said to him, go. Still said the same thing, go. For he is a chosen vessel of mine to bear my name before the Gentile kings and the children of Israel. And he didn't really answer the question, did he? He didn't. And Ananias went his way and entered the house. Number 4, you accept the mission, but disobey God's instructions and you compromise. We showed you that in Saul. This is about Moses when God was asking him to lead the people out. This is an amazing little story, but he said, "Oh, my Lord, please, God, send by the hand of somebody else. Don't send me. Send somebody else that you may send." So the anger of the Lord was ticked off at Moses. And he said, "Is not Aaron the Levite your brother? I know that he can speak well, so he shall be your spokesman to the people, and he himself shall be as a mouth to you." What happened here? God's mission wasn't for Aaron. And Moses, even though God reacted to him a number of times in a row about this, "What do you mean? Who made man's mouth? I made your mouth like this. Why are you giving me a hard time?" "No, I don't want to do this. Send somebody else." Because of his compromise, Aaron was given authority, and Aaron was the one that built the golden calf in the wilderness. And maybe that would have never happened if Aaron hadn't been appointed because Moses compromised the mission. I don't know. I'd like to go to part 3. Part 3 is a very challenging question. I want you to look up here for a minute because I want to talk to you directly about this. I'm a theologian, and I've studied theology for 13 years professionally in school and graduate school and so forth. And then I've been reading the Bible for many, 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 many years. One of the things I want to do is I want to understand God. And I want to understand how life works so I can better serve him. Sometimes you come upon a verse that you can't figure out. How can God be sovereign over all things? Because he is. How can man have a free will? Because he does. I don't know. You can't have a sovereign God that has free will. And you can't have free will if God's sovereign. But that's what the Bible teaches. It's arrogant to feel you have to have the ability to put what God says is true together if he doesn't want you to put it together. Both of these are true. And denominations twist verses out of the scripture that believe just this and not this. And other denominations take other verses and twist those verses to make all this happen. No, not really sovereignty. No, not really free will. And both of them are wrong. It's both is true. And they won't accept it because there's arrogance in them. The Bible does teach both of them. What I want to read to you now, I don't understand. But I know it's to be true because it's what it says. Here's the question. Isn't it interesting that God says, who can we send? And then there's a second question. Who will go for us? Because it appears that not everyone will go. Let's take it to an extreme. What would happen if God has a really big-time mission that's really big to him? And he starts asking people, will you go? No. Will you go? No. Can I send you? No. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Yeah, but this. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Until he's gone everywhere. And not one person says yes. Could that be true? Why am I bringing this thought up? Because of our thoughts. What are our thoughts? Our thoughts are this. If God asks me and I don't want to, and I say no, God can raise somebody else to do it. Okay, that's something I've wondered years ago. Is that true? Is there always, in a sovereign, all-powerful God, is there always somebody who says yes?